Hello. In this lecture, we are going to talk about mode mixture and the Neapolitan. Let's start with mode mixture and borrowed chords. Here is a diatonic progression 1 4 1 and 1 6 1. Please focus on these chords on the 4th degree and on the 6th degree. Let's listen to the progression. If we want to give a different kind of colorization to this progression, a minor feeling within a major mode, we can do the following. We can use their minor mode versions. Instead of diatonic 4, we can use the 4th degree of C minor, and instead of diatonic 6th degree, we can use the minor version, the 6th degree of C minor. Let's listen to it. This process doesn't change the functionality of the chords. The 4th degree is still the subdominant chord and the 6th degree is still the 6th degree, only with a different sonority. If we do that, we call the process of doing this mode mixture, and the changed chords borrowed chords. They are borrowed from the parallel minor. Mode mixture is actually a characteristic of major mode, and in minor mode there is only one chord which is very often borrowed from the parallel major, and it is the major tonic chord. Let's listen to the excerpt. This usage is very common. It is so common that almost every piece in minor mode between 1500 to 1750 ends this major triad at the end called Picardy third. Let's listen to it once again. The most common borrowed chords in major mode contains flat 6. In other words, flat 6 is the most borrowed pitch in the major mode. What can we do with flat 6? We can change the following chords with their minor mode versions. For example, instead of half diminished version, we can use fully diminished version, which is more common actually than the half diminished version. And we can also change the 2nd degree. Instead of minor chord, we can use the diminished version, and we can change the 7th version of the 2nd degree. Instead of minor 7th, we can use the half diminished version. And the 4th degree, instead of major triad, we can use the minor 4th degree. This is an excerpt from Chopin's Mazurka. Let's listen to it. The excerpt is in A-flat major, and here We see a chord actually with B flat. C is a non-chord tone. With B flat, we see here a G diminished 7th. This is a borrowed chord. The diatonic version is the half diminished version with F natural, but with this is more common than the half diminished version with F flat, and then tonic chord, and it is repeated. You see the chord also here, 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 and here once again. And this is 7 of 5. In this case, this is also the diminished version, 7 of 5, and after that we see the 5. This is also a borrowed chord, because the dominant chord is a major chord, E flat major. Its secondary dominant or its secondary leading tone, 7th, should also be according to this key. E flat major triad represents the key of E flat major. So it should, diatonically, it should have been actually with C natural, D, F, A flat, and C, which would be D half diminished 7th. And instead of this chord half diminished version, Chopin used, as usual, as common, the borrowed version, which is a fully diminished 7th. Let's listen to it once again. The borrowed leading tone 7th also facilitates the progression from leading tone 7th to the dominant 7th. As you see, we can change the quality of the chord only by moving the 7th of the chords down by step. E flat goes to D natural, and so the quality of the chord changes. And after that, we can resolve the dominant 7th. We can also do the same with the half diminished version with E natural. But it sounds harsher. The fully diminished version sounds softer. Therefore, it is used more commonly. This is another example of this kind of usage. Let's listen to it. The excerpt begins in G minor and ends in B flat major, in the relative major. And the modulation happens somewhere here. If you analyze the passage with 5 and 1 and say this is the common chord, and after that B flat major, and this is the 6th degree of B flat major, and after 6, 7 in first inversion, and then 1. The problem is this progression from 6 to 7, which is not impossible. We can use them, but there's another option which makes more sense. It is the following in G minor 5-1. This time we take the second chord in the first measure of the excerpt as common chord. This is the second degree of G minor. If you say this is the common chord, B flat major, this is 7, 6, so here first inversion, and then B flat. By doing so, we get a more reasonable harmonic progression. So, and then you see A flat here, this is 5, 4, 2 of 4, and then 4, 6, and here is our borrowed chord. This is minor 4. It is used as passing chord here, or to support the passing motion in the bass line, chromatic passing motion in the bass line, and then 1, 6, 4 also passing, and this is 7 fully diminished of 5. You see this is also a borrowed chord, a borrowed secondary function, and then 5, a short 7, and 1 in B flat major. Let's listen to it once again. This is another example of mode mixture. Let's listen to the excerpt. The excerpt begins in D major, and this is the first degree, and you see here a borrowed chord. This is the second degree, E is the root, E, G, B flat, and D. This is to half diminished and in the third inversion. Diatonically, this chord should have been a minor 7th chord. And this is the minor mode, second degree. And here 5, 6, 5, then 1 again. And we see the same chord here. With a D sharp is a chromatic passing tone. Also 2, 4, 2. 5, 6, 5, everything is the same. And on the second page, we see at the end of the excerpt we are in A major. It could be a modulation or it could be a tonicization, but because we see here a cadential 6/4, it would be more proper to consider it as a modulation. So at the point of modulation should be here. This is the first degree of D major, is also the fourth degree of A major, and after that everything would make sense. 1, 6, and this is 5, 4, 3 of 5, and then cadential 6/4, the resolution 5/7, 5/7, and 1. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. Flat 3 and flat 7 are less common in major mode. What can we change with those pitches? We can change the tonic chord. Instead of A major, we can change it to minor. We can change the 6th degree. Instead of minor 6, we can use flat 6, which is a major chord. And we can change also the 7th version of 4th degree, which is diatonically a major 7th. We can change it to minor 7th. We can change the 3rd degree, which would be C sharp minor in A major. We can change it to C major. And the flat 7, which functions actually as secondary dominant of flat 3, instead of G sharp diminished triad, we can change it to G major triad. This is a very famous example of mode mixture. The excerpt is in C major, and you will hear a mode mixture here from major tonic chord to minor tonic chord, and then back from minor tonic chord to major tonic chord. Let's listen to the excerpt. This kind of mode mixture is very rare in the literature. I mean, changing only the tonic chord from major version to the minor version. In the literature, normally, if we see a minor mode tonic chord, that means we are going to be for a couple of chords at least in the minor mode. Like in the following example, let's listen to the excerpt first. The excerpt is in B flat major, and the excerpt begins with the tonic chord and then the first inversion of the tonic chord. And here we have D. Let's draw a stuff. We have D in the bass, then A flat, and then B flat, and F sharp in the first violin. This is actually a dominant 7th. We would show it as 5/7 with a raised 5th. That makes the triad the augmented, so we show it with a plus. But notice that the plus doesn't belong to the 7. That doesn't mean an augmented 7th. It means an augmented triad. The dominant chord is augmented with added 7th. So, and we label it 5 plus 6, 5, because it is in first inversion of 4. And after that, we have 4th degree, and this is, you see, E, G, D flat, and B flat. This is a E fully diminished 7th, which is 7, 7 of 5. On the following page, we have a cadential 6/4. It seems like a cadential 6/4, but instead of resolving to the dominant chord, the chord is changed to its minor version. It is a minor tonic chord now, and after that you see here F, A flat, D flat and C flat. This is a D flat dominant 7th. If you see a dominant 7th chord, go a perfect 5th down, you will find the chord it belongs, which is a G flat major or minor, we don't know, but in this case a G flat major chord. And G flat major is in B flat major, the flat 6, and D flat is then the 5, 6, 5 of flat 6. As you see, we see a minor mode tonic chord, then we stay for a couple of chords in minor mode, and then back it is once again G, C, E and B flat. This is 5, 4, 3 of 5, and then 5, 7. And here is the resolution. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. This is another example of a rare mode mixture. Let's listen to the excerpt first.
Es ist Gott die Geschichte, doch bleibt sie immer neu. Und wem sie es passiert, dem bricht das Herz entzwei.
The excerpt is in E flat major. We can understand it from this dominant 7th, B flat dominant 7th. This is 5, 7. And we have, you see here the textural reduction. The chord remains the same in the first 3 measures, and we have here some passing tones. We don't need to label them separately. We can say the dominant chord remains, and here we have the resolution to the tonic chord. And here once again we see a dominant 7th chord. This is D flat dominant 7th. It belongs to G flat major, and G flat major is in E flat major key, or flat 3. So the D flat dominant 7th is 5, 6, 5, because it is in first inversion of flat 3. And then it returns back first as a fully diminished 7th in first inversion, and then the dominant 7th in root position. You see the 7th of the chord, C flat, moves down by step, and the chord becomes a dominant 7th, and then we have its resolution. Let's listen to it once again.
Es ist Gott die Geschichte, doch bleibt sie immer neu. Und wem sie es passiert, dem bricht das Herz entzwei.
Let's try to answer the questions at the checkpoint. What is the name for the raised third in the tonic triad in the minor mode? This is the Picardy third. Picardy third. Show the chord symbols for the borrowed chords in major discussed in this chapter. In major, the chords, there are many actually. For example, flat 6, flat 3, 2, half diminished 7th, 2, diminished, and most importantly 7, 7, and there are also 4, a couple of more. How does flat 6 most often proceed? Up by step, down by step, or down by leap? Flat 6 proceeds almost always down by step. For example, in C major, if you see A flat, it will go to G. This is the conventional usage. Which borrowed chords are minor triads? For example, the 4th degree, borrowed 4th degree, 1, borrowed 1, and I think that's all. Our next topic is the Neapolitan chord. The basic organizing force in tonal music is this progression. An initial tonic, then reaching the dominant and its resolution. And our main interest is on this part, how we reach the dominant chord. And this part is probably the most important part of harmonic progression, the way to the dominant. We want to make this way interesting. We want to elaborate this way. We can add a subdominant chord between the initial tonic and the dominant chord. We can go one step further and use the secondary dominant, 5 of 5. We can make it larger or longer and add the second degree. So what we made is making the way longer, elaborating the way to the dominant. This is maybe a little exaggerated, but it is not uncommon, especially in the late romantic music, elaborating the way to the dominant with more functions, with more chords. You see here secondary functions, 3, 6, 4, and after that 5 of 5, 6 of 5, a deceptive progression in the dominant key, and then 7 of 5, 5, 6, another deceptive progression in the home key, and then 2, 5, 1. If you want to elaborate the way even more, then we can use, for example, the minor mode versions of these chords. And also this one, for example, instead of 5, 6, diatonic 6 of the dominant key, we can use flat 6 here. And so also here, flat 6, and we can get then another kind of progression. Let's listen to the progression. You may find it a little too exaggerated, but one thing is clear. Using many borrowed chords could blur the sense of tonality. And at some points, we are about to lose the sense of gravity, sense of tonal center. So be careful. You have to be careful with using the borrowed chords. A very common and effective way to elaborate the progression to the dominant is using the Neapolitan chord. The Neapolitan chord is a major chord built on the altered second degree, and it is mostly used in the first inversion, so therefore it is mostly called the Neapolitan sixth. Those are the same. You can use whatever you want. The meaning is the same. But if you use the Neapolitan sixth, it only describes the Neapolitan chord in the first inversion. So I recommend to use the Neapolitan chord. The Neapolitan chord is the same both in major and minor mode. It is a major chord, as I said, built on the lowered second scale degree, which make it an E-flat major chord in both D major and D minor. And the symbol of the chord is an N for the Neapolitan. If it is in the first inversion, then we use the inversion symbol. If it is very, very, very rare. If it is in the second inversion, then we use the corresponding inversion symbol. And very uncommon, but there are some examples. The Neapolitan chord could sometimes be a minor chord. In this case, we show it with a lowercase n. You can forget it for now. It is really very rare. Here are a couple of examples of using the Neapolitan chord in part writing. Let's go over some points. When a tone is doubled, it is usually the third of the Neapolitan sixth, which is in three-part texture. We don't have to double any tone, but in four-part writing we have to double, and it is usually the third of the chord, which is in the bass in the usual usage in first inversion. You see, it is doubled between bass and soprano, and here it is doubled between bass and tenor. The Neapolitan sixth moves to 5 or a cadential 6/4, then 5, but 7 of 5 may appear between the Neapolitan sixth and the 5. The Neapolitan sixth would usually not be followed by 4 and 2. There is a particular reason for that, very strong reason for that, because the Neapolitan sixth is a much stronger predominant chord than 4 or 2. So, if you make a placement from weaker to stronger, 4, after 4 we have 2. 2 is a stronger predominant chord than 4, and then we have the Neapolitan. Neapolitan is stronger than the 2 and 6. So you have to use them in this order: 4, then 2, then the Neapolitan. And you see here, between Neapolitan chord and the dominant chord, there is a secondary leading tone 7th. The flat 2, the root of the Neapolitan sixth, moves down, especially when it appears in the melody. This is very characteristic. Flat 2, goes to the 7 and then resolves. This circling around the tonic, half step up, half step down, and then the tonic. This is very characteristic for the Neapolitan. You see it also here and also here, but not directly because there's a cadential 6/4 between them. Also here indirectly. So let's talk about this example. You see here parallel fourths between C and F, between tenor and alto. This is no problem at all, but if we transpose the alto part one octave lower, or tenor part one octave higher, then you will see this time we would have parallel fifths. Then we would have a problem. So be always careful about the parallel fifths when the Neapolitan sixth moves to 1/6/4. And the Neapolitan sixth, like the unaltered second degree, is usually preceded by 6, 4, and 1. That means you can use it as a regular second degree, a diminished second degree in this case, in the minor mode. The Neapolitan chord is more characteristic for minor mode. There are also examples of using the Neapolitan chord in major mode, but characteristically it is used in minor mode. In this example, we are going to see and hear the Neapolitan chord. Let's listen to it. The excerpt is in C sharp minor and it begins with tonic chord, and I will skip the chords between the Neapolitan and the tonic chord, and here you see the Neapolitan F sharp, A and D natural. It is a Neapolitan sixth. And after that, as usual, 1/6/4 and the resolution to 5/7 and the tonic chord. Let's listen to it once again. Another beautiful example is by Brahms. Let's listen to it. The harmonic progression of the excerpt is very regular actually. We are in F minor and this is the first degree, and you see this is the 6, 4, 6 in first inversion, by the way, 4, and this is the Neapolitan. You see G flat, the lowered second degree, and this is the Neapolitan 6. And after that, as usual, the dominant chord and a deceptive progression to the 6th degree. And so, in this measure, in measure 11, we have an interesting usage after a secondary dominant, after 5 of 5. By the way, the secondary dominance could be shown with a slash or also with an arrow, like in this case. That means this dominant chord belongs to the next chord. The minor dominant is interesting, and after that, to and 5, and this is an half cadence in F minor. The reason why Brahms used the minor 5 is, in my opinion, this melodic movement. F, E flat, D flat, and C, which is the target of the main melodic movement. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. And an example from popular music, from film music actually. Let's listen to the excerpt. The piece is in E minor, and you see here is the Neapolitan sixth. And one more thing worth mentioning is the harmonic progression in the second line. If you take the roots A, D, G, C, F, B, and E, this is a very long circle of fifth progression. Each chord is diatonic except the Neapolitan. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. There are also some unusual usages. For example, the Neapolitan may appear in root position. This is unusual but not impossible, or rarely in second inversion, but this is really rare. So, and the Neapolitan may occur in the major mode, which is also unusual but not impossible, and the Neapolitan may be tonicized. Let's listen to this excerpt. The excerpt is in A minor, and it begins with the 5-7 chord. And this measure is interesting, but it seems like we have the 4 chord. But if you consider the harmonic progression, it doesn't make sense having the 4 after 5-7. We should consider this D as a non-chord tone, as a suspension, and the main function is that, which is a 6. And so we have a deceptive progression here. And after that, this chord is the Neapolitan. This is the B flat major chord, which is our Neapolitan. The interesting part is it is in root position and it is tonicized by its secondary dominant, which is F dominant 7th here. And we show it as 5 of Neapolitan. And then once again we have 5-7 and 1. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. And one more thing worth mentioning is the sequence in the last 4 measure. We have, you see it in the textural reduction here. We have A, B, G sharp, A. Also in the bass, F, B flat, E, and A. Another interesting example is by Verdi. Let's listen to it. The excerpt is in C major, and we can say it doesn't make much sense actually labeling the first measure because it is only a monophonic line, but it implies the tonic chord. If you regard the B's as non-chord tones, we can say this is the tonic chord, and here we have to take these intervals into consideration, and this is the 4 in first inversion, and we see here a D minor chord in the first inversion, which is our second degree, and then in the root position, and here the dominant chord, and at the end it becomes 6/5. And then its resolution to the tonic, and then a secondary leading tone 7th, 7, 7 of 2, and then 2, and then we have a borrowed chord. This is the diminished second degree, which is borrowed from the parallel minor, and then 1, 6, 4, which is a passing chord in this case, and then flat 6, which is also a borrowed chord, and then the Neapolitan in root position. The interesting part of this usage is that it is in root position and it is in a major mode. We can consider this flat 6 also as 5 of the Neapolitan, and after that we have 5/7 and the resolution. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. Let's try to answer these questions. Name 4 chords that commonly follow a Neapolitan 6 chord. The dominant chord, of course, the dominant 7th, 1, 6, 4, or 7, 7 of 5, and it has to be a 7th chord. What is usually doubled in a Neapolitan 6 chord? The 3rd, which is usually in the bass. Does the flat 2nd in a Neapolitan 6 tend to move up or down? Always down. Name several less common uses of the Neapolitan chord. For example, it could be used in the root position. It could be used in the major mode, or it could be tonicized. Our next topic is modulations involving mode mixture and the Neapolitan. Mode mixture could facilitate the modulations to the foreign keys. For example, if we are in F major and if we want to modulate to the E flat major, it is of course possible also without mode mixture. I can take, for example, the 4th degree. Let's say I am in F major. I start with 1, then take the 4th degree, and this is then the 5th degree in E flat major. Then maybe a deceptive progression to make the modulation more convincing, and then 4, 5, and 1. Let's listen to this modulation. I'm in F major. And I start to modulate. And I ended in E flat major. It is possible, but if I use mode mixture, for example, if I take the minor mode tonic chord, which is F minor, then I am automatically on the 2nd degree of E flat major. So 1, I change the major mode 1 to minor mode 1, and I am automatically in E flat major on the 2nd degree. And after that, 2, 5, and 1. I can end as follows. Let's listen to this version. So that was the dominant version. It is also always more convincing to use dominant 7th version of the dominant chord. I can also do that with the Neapolitan chord. I'm in F major and I use the Neapolitan 6th of F major, which is G flat major chord. And let's say I want to modulate to B flat minor. If I take the Neapolitan chord, I am automatically on the 6th degree of B flat minor, and then I can continue to 6, 5, 7, and 1. Let's listen to this version. So this time I also used a cadential 6/4 here, then 5/7. As you see, I get plenty of possibilities if I involve the mode mixture and the Neapolitan in the modulations. This is an example of this usage. Let's listen to it. The excerpt begins in F major and a regular progression 1, 5, and after that, instead of usual the diatonic 1, Schubert uses a minor mode, a borrowed 1, and at that point he used this chord to modulate to A flat major. It is at the same time the 6th degree of A flat major, and then 1, 6, 4, 5, 7. This is a cadential 6/4, and then 1. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. another very interesting example. Let's listen to it. The excerpt ends in A flat minor. A flat minor, you see A flat here, and there is no third in the last chord, but because we have had the C flat here in the cadential 6/4, it is still in our ear. So this is 1, 6, 4, 5 cadential and 1. And it is in A flat minor. The A flat minor. So, and the first half of the excerpt is in A major. It doesn't correspond to the key signature, but it is A major. You see here E dominant 7th, and then the resolution to the A major. This is 5, 4, 2, and then 1, 6, 5 as passing, 6, 4, as 4, 3, and 1, once again 4, 4, 3, and 1, 6. And this is the interesting part. The first degree of A major is the Neapolitan sixth of A flat major. We have to think enharmonically. Instead of A major in first inversion, we have to consider it as B double flat major, and which would be the Neapolitan chord in A flat minor. Let's listen to it once again. And our final example is by Beethoven. Let's listen to it. The excerpt begins in F minor, and we have a usual progression, except this one. This is a German sixth here, which we will cover in the following video, and this is 5. And back to the tonic chord. And at this point, the modulation happens. It is the first degree of F minor is at the same time the second degree of E flat major. So, and there is no mode mixture until this point, and the mode mixture is here. Also with the horn part, of course. And this is the borrowed second degree for 2. After that, 5, 6, 5, and 1. The 7th of the chord is in the horn. And this is 2, 6, 5, and then a cadential 6, 4, and 1. So, the reason why Beethoven uses a mode mixture here to make the modulation more convincing. F minor belongs both to the F minor and E flat major, but this chord belongs only to the E flat major. Let's listen to the excerpt once again. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.